All right, let's switch gears now and turn to some football. Did you know the very first NFL game was played in Rock Island? It was in 1920 at Douglas Park, and it featured one of the original NFL teams, the Rock Island Independents. Well, a local man has dedicated years to keeping their history alive, and he joins us right now here on The Current. Jared Howe, thank you so much for being here with us today, Jared. I want to start with you
Thank
and
you.
your efforts to keep history alive. Tell us about your Facebook page, Forgotten Quad Cities.
Oh, yeah. Well, my Facebook page has been up for about 9 months, and it dives into forgotten stories of the Quad Cities. And so far, I've done about 44 stories, ranging from old sports teams to many old stories that, unless you really know history, you probably don't know about. And so it's been exciting for me to grow the page. Right now, I have almost 30,000 people who follow this page. And it's been a real treat for me to dive into these stories.
And one of the stories that has gotten a lot of attention on your page is all about the Rock Island Independents. Let's talk about them. They
Yeah.
played 6 seasons in
Yeah.
Rock Island. How successful were
Mhm.
they?
Well, they were in the NFL for about 6 years, like you said, from about 1920 to about 1926. And during that time, they had a winning record, won more games than they lost. And while they never won the championship every year, they always were in the top two or three teams. One of their most famous players, as you know, was Jim Thorpe, who was also a member of the Sauk tribe. And he played for the Independents for, I believe, two of those seasons.
Yeah, I'm going to ask my producers here to play. We got some video of Jim Thorpe, or a photo, I should say. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about him? I was talking about him in the newsroom today, and a couple of my coworkers said, oh, he's one of the most impressive athletes in American history.
Yes, for his time, he was the most famous athlete during the 1920s and 1930s. And he played for a number of teams through those years. But he was, at the time he played for the Independents, I think he was a little bit older. I think it was in his 40s by the time he played for the team here. But he was, like they said, one of the best. Um, for his time, he was known as the best athlete in the whole world,
Hmm.
and it was very exciting. And he's one of, I believe, five players who played for the Independents who eventually made it to the NFL Hall of Fame. So we had four other players who also made it there too. So he was probably our most famous player, though.
Well, the Independents played a different version of football than what we are used to today.
That's
What are
true.
some of the what are
Yeah.
some of the major differences here?
Well, they didn't do much of the forward pass. So the forward pass was not a big part of the game then. So a lot of their game was built around runs, and they would do a lot of sweeps. They would basically have a lot of people block, and then they would just run the ball. And it was a much more, it was a very physical game, and they played at a time when there were not a lot of pads. So players talked about how painful it was to play the game then. And also they didn't really make a lot of money. This was not a sport at that time when players would get millions of dollars. In fact, most of the time they would make $50 for every game. And so there was not a lot of people getting rich. This was a different time.
Hmm. We're going to keep looking at some of these historic photographs of the team. But yeah, I think one thing that's so interesting is a lot of the players would play both sides. They'd play offense and defense
That's
as well,
true.
which is quite different from
Yeah.
today. But I really want to focus on the
Yes.
role that the Independents played, especially in the context of when we're talking 1920s, when it came to
Mhm.
desegregating the game of football.
That's true. They were not only did they have the first NFL game down at Douglas Field, but they started many black players. Now this was in the 20s, when playing black players was rare. Most of their teams did not play black players. And if you think about baseball only started playing black players in the 1940s. So this is 20 years prior to that time. And I think it's one thing that we can be really proud of is that we lived in a city that believed that black players ought to play. And throughout their 6 years in the NFL, they played black players every single season.
Hmm. Well, you said the independents are more than the players and the wins. You've said before that they
Yes.
supplied proof. Proof of what?
Well, I would say they were proof of the toughness of the city at that time in the 20s. We were, we still are, but we were then too a blue collar town known for our toughness. And the Independents were known for being the toughest football team in the whole league. And I think it was proof of the character that this town had and the character of this place. We're not a big city, we're a small town, but we could stand up against the big boys. We played the Bears many, many times, right? We played the Bears here. And we were known to get the Bears. I think we won more games than we lost against the Bears, too. So we were known as a gritty, hardcore, tough football team.
Jared, we only have a few seconds left, but really quickly, what
Yeah.
ultimately caused the NFL to move on from Rock Island?
Well, that's a good question. There were a number of leagues during that time. After the 1926 season, I believe, Rock Island moved to a rival league and played in that league for 2 or 3 years, and that league folded. And then our team kept going for a few years, jumped around to some different leagues, but also the league started to move to bigger cities because it was hard to get a big draw. It was hard to make a lot of money in small towns. So they started to move towards bigger cities where they could get more fans to go out and watch the game. And that's, if you look at the sport now, almost every team is based in a large city. So we were there at a time when, the teams were smaller towns, and then the game changed.
Jared, I could sit and talk to you about history all day long. We got a lot more to get to, but for you guys at home, we are not done with Jared just yet. He will join us again in 20 minutes to discuss the modern day efforts to memorialize the Rock Island independence.